Good morning, everybody. It's the 3rd of March, 2025. It's a Monday. And temperature is, have I been here before? No. Temperature is like about, I don't know, 2 degrees. Very strange when you look in the morning, very early in the morning. The temperature is warmer than after the sun comes up. I never could understand that. Anyway, sun just came up here. And yes, they concluded that meeting in London of mostly the warmongers. It's incredible. After Zelensky got his dressing down by Trump over there, a lot of things have been being said, and nothing has been done yet. So we all have to see what's going to happen and how people will follow through with their little commitments. But they had something, I guess they called it the Dream Team, which is not really even true because there was a lot of people missing there. So maybe most of the biggest and frothiest warmongers weren't there. The Baltic states weren't representative, and neither was Annalena Baerbock. But they had Ursula von der Leyen there, and of course, she's a big member of the Hate Russia Club. And Zelensky, of course, with his green T-shirt, was there. Everybody's getting on him now, and I will stop wearing my T-shirts when the war is over. It's almost like he planned it. Immediately when these hostilities started, Zelensky started wearing green T-shirts. And so, why is that? Yeah, but there's too much to indicate that this was actually always a planned provocation, planning. And of course, maybe the biggest hope was that there wouldn't be a war, but they knew it very, very easily could start a war. And it's similar to what Donald Trump was saying to Zelensky in the Oval Office, is that he's gambling with World War III. And I'll tell you what, the possibility of World War III is far, far higher, with Zelensky's attitude, and what if he's going to keep on playing with what he's playing, is far, far greater than what it was for starting, say, the conflict between Ukraine and Russia in 2022. Because yesterday, for one reason, I put out there, I think it was Charles Ortel saying, was it Charles Ortel or somebody? Anyway, some of these guys. There's a lot of these good analysts, Michael Maloff and Charles Ortel, and they're analyzing a lot of what is really going on. And Zelensky is in a position where he cannot stop the war. He's got way too much riding on this, that the war must continue. It must continue. Otherwise, he is gone. He's gone in many ways. He'll have to hold elections. The Nazis might get him. There were reasons, and I put it out yesterday. You have to watch yesterday's video if you want to, see that. But I don't know about these European nations, and I don't know. They're probably in bed with a lot of corporations, and you would think that Donald Trump, he might be beholden to a large part to Blackwater, but I kind of think he made some sort of a deal. I'm just guessing, because the corporations, the men behind the curtain, they're the ones that actually call the shots. So, yeah. But the interesting discussion going on, obviously, in NATO. Yesterday it was sort of, in Washington, it's kind of started out as whispers, and a lot of it was initiated, even though maybe people talked about it beforehand, was initiated by a tweet by Elon Musk that the US should withdraw from NATO. And of course that's probably going to happen. Looks like, damn, a real homeless person probably over there. I don't know if you guys can see that person sitting up there. I don't even want to walk over there. I saw him when I was walking up through here. Somebody's sitting there. Now, who in the heck would be sitting on a day like this? It's, like I said, it's not quite freezing, but it is just above freezing. It's, I think, maybe 1 or 2 degrees, so it's still cold. And I don't know what that person's sitting out there for. Maybe a homeless. You don't see that many homeless in Belarus. But let's keep going on the news. Yeah, so there was these whisperings, and now it's turned into a big conversation, almost a roar, and they're talking about withdrawing from NATO. And this adds another element to what could possibly happen. Now it's even possible that Ukraine, and Zelensky says his whole goal of being leader, which is actually not true, but he wants it for public purposes. His goal, he says, is to get Ukraine into NATO. And then he talks about security guarantees. Well, then how come Ukraine never had security guarantees for all of history, not even now, and now all of a sudden they need security guarantees? It's because they want to provoke Russia, and of course, you know, that was the Biden people. It's really strange now that the United States has shifted gears 180 degrees. Well, to Baerbock, it's 360 degrees. That's another thing. Lavrov was talking about Baerbock and her 360 degrees. I might have made a note about that. It was pretty interesting too. It was really interesting little few sentences of Lavrov, and all very true. I have a few of those written down here. One from Trump. So let's keep going here. But obviously the whole thing, what Zelensky was betting on, and a lot of these people now are betting on, and that's kind of what has the United States a little bit scared, is that, you know, letting Ukraine into NATO in any way, shape, or form will immediately trigger Article 5, and the U.S. is kind of scared if this sort of happens, and then the U.S. will be obligated to also go to war against Russia. And of course, for some people, that is the goal. And I think they know very well that Russia will never initiate using nuclear weapons. Never do that, unless, of course, Russia has made it very clear, unless an army crosses its border into Russia, then there will be nuclear weapons going off. So, and they're probably going to be careful not to do that, but they want to bomb the crap out of Russia, start this war going, and bring Russia to its knees. You know, and that's still obviously a major, major goal. And Zelensky, as we already put out, his other goals is to get fabulously rich. He's already far richer than Donald Trump. He's probably the richest leader on planet Earth. I don't know how rich is the king of Saudi Arabia, but Zelensky, a lot of people even years ago were projecting he's got $10 billion. So, and you know, he might be wise in bowing out of this thing, you know, he's supposed to get a whole bunch of money from the EU and from the UK. You know, I just mentioned yesterday, what was it, 3.4 billion, and then the EU sending some billions, tens of billions, I believe, and he can just take his 10% for the big guy, you know, like Joe Biden. Seems like that's the amount, you know. We are not greedy here, you know. We're not picky. They just take 10%. And I think that's about what Zelensky's cut normally always is. And I think when it goes down and the money starts to get smaller, I think some of these other people, they take a bigger percentage in Ukraine. A lot of people, even Kash Patel, I think I wrote something about him talking about Ukraine too, but let's get to that. I'm not getting too far here, and I gotta keep going. Somebody's with their dog watching me over there. Okay. So they want to provoke Russia. That is, of course, the biggest thing, so that they have the moral high ground. They'll, just like what they did in Ukraine, let's do everything possible so that Russia has to attack Ukraine, and then we can say it was an unprovoked attack. You know, and a lot of people are talking, that's one of the biggest lies of the last decade. It's unprovoked. Obviously it is. There's no doubt about that. Any of you that follow this channel, you know that, or you follow any of these truth activist channels, it's definitely the case. And yeah, who wasn't invited to that meeting? Of course, it wasn't Estonia, or any of those people like that in the Baltic states, because they have no military, well, nothing to speak of, and they're just rabid little puppy dogs. And they said that there will not be any attack from NATO without them involved. They really want to go. It really makes you wonder how successful these people are. You know, I'm talking about the people behind the curtain, media, you know, Soros, all this, to inflict people with this hateful ideology, so consumed with hatred. I mean, it's like they did that to the Ukrainians for decades, to make for every fiber in their body to hate Russians. Hate, hate, hate. You know, it's like a food to them. Hatred, hatred, hatred. And they think that they have the moral high ground because they hate. You know, the Russians are evil. Anyway, you guys know the deal. And I'm kind of wondering if they actually want to kick something off, they probably will start out in a light way, and that will be through Belarus. I'm believing that. And of course, Lukashenko, he saw this coming a long time ago. Lukashenko sees a lot of things coming. He's very good at that. That's why he's trying to make the country self-sufficient. You know, stop the importation if possible, and push the industries to be self-sufficient and make everything they need here, or maybe have very good partners at the very least, like Russia, where they can get whatever they need, and it's not very easy. They're very, very, very good friends with China, and good friends with lots of African countries as well, maybe so they can get their tropical fruits here. I don't know. But if you had been to Belarus, like say back in the year 2000, 2001, like I had, and it's like you couldn't find any of these like mangoes or anything like that anywhere. And if you wanted some fresh vegetables and fruits, you had to go to Minsk to get them, because all the places they didn't really have that. And a lot of people would can their own things. This is just 2001, but now it's all over the place. You have everything. It looks like it's summertime. You got all the vegetables that have greenhouses and everything. It's really amazing how the transformation happened over here. And we're watching some of these countries in Europe go in the other direction. Yeah. So I was thinking that, there's a precedent. There's been a lot of attacks on Belarus or Russia through Belarus. It's always going through Belarus. What was it? June 22nd, 1941. That was the attack from Adolf. It was like 4 in the morning through Brest. And they started, of course, attacking the Brest fortress. And through Belarus, a lot of times it's happened. And I guess that has been the point of a lot of attacks. It may be the next one. Guess what? It's nestled right there. Poland on one side, Ukraine on the other. Two rabid dogs really wanting wars. So it's very, very likely that the next one will also come through there. And then you have a lot of these people in that area that are conditioned to not like Belarus, but to like the West instead. I wonder if their attitudes are going to change when they get attacked. So that's what I'm talking about. The success of indoctrination and brainwashing people. It's just absolutely shocking. Absolutely. And then they created an alternative history. And I've heard it actually from people that it was all Russia's fault. Everything, always. Russia's always the one at fault for all of the wars and everything that ever happened in Russia. They were the ones at fault. They did it first. I don't know really that whole history, and I intend on hoping that I can find out the real truth at some point in time. I don't know. Maybe you can't find something that isn't biased, though. And what else here? Let's see. Scott Ritter, he put out a tweet. He put out a couple tweets. Some of them were excellent. I love Scott Ritter. There was one that it's not accurate at all, and I don't want to sound like I'm attacking Scott Ritter necessarily, but he was talking about the reason why people fled Europe to America is because there are a bunch of nutcases in Europe, and maybe that they love war and all that. Of course, they gave us paintings and culture and all that sort of thing, but it's not really that accurate. It's accurate when you think about it at the time, when you're looking at all these warmongers in Europe wanting to go to war with Russia, and Donald Trump trying to stop that. But you got to just think back a year ago. Joe Biden, he was a warmonger. I mean, you can go back for a long time. You can go back even before World War II. And the United States wanted war. And everybody talks about there's no culture in the U.S., I was kind of skeptical. One person sitting there in his Levi's, maybe eating KFC or a McDonald's hamburger and saying there is no culture in America, while he's listening to some American music as well. But so, I don't know. It's just, you have to be careful when you're criticizing, And I wouldn't come up with any of these generalizations, because you're going to get yourself trapped. It's very much like Zelensky was doing. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of things that J.D. Vance or Trump could have said to Zelensky. Have you been to Ukraine? And it's like, well, why do I have to go to Ukraine? You can ask Zelensky. Have you been to Seattle? Well, I haven't been there yet. Well, then how can you talk about Seattle? Do you know how it is here? I mean, it's like, first he would start out and say, well, I would have said, have you been to the USA? He said, I'm in the USA right now. So what is it like in Seattle, Mr. Zelensky? Oh, I haven't been to Seattle. Well, that's my point. You can ask Zelensky, well, what is it like in Kiev right now? Blah, 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 blah. And you can say, well, you're not there right now. How can you tell me? And then it's just like Vance. He doesn't have to go to Ukraine. And even, look at, Vance probably knows more about Ukraine than Zelensky. And supposedly, Zelensky lives there. And how come Zelensky has no idea? Because you saw Trump, and he was Zelensky's shaking his head, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And then when Trump said, and you're losing, and Zelensky is basically saying, no, I'm not. It's obviously just PR. He knows he's losing, but he doesn't want anybody to think so, because he's thinking, oh, if I tell everybody that we're losing the war, then I won't get the aid anymore. I don't know. These people, a lot of delusional leaders, and Zelensky is number one, so yeah. But yeah. In any case, let's keep going here. I was just wanting to say that, there's a big history of craziness coming out of the USA, and using everybody as their tools. Europe is this a tool? I think that's one thing that actually Scott Ritter said, that in another tweet, very, very good, that Ukraine, Zelensky is nothing but a tool. Europe is a tool, and Clinton and Bush, all these people, they use Europe, to expand NATO, and Trump, I think, has said, well, we've gone a little bit too far. And I think Trump is not interested in that sort of a thing, military confrontations and killing and all that. So he probably wants to dominate in other ways, economically, and with a heck of a lot of pressure in that way. So, yeah. Yes, indeed. Oh, so let's keep going here. There's a Greek ambassador, probably a former ambassador to the Ukraine, and he was divulging how the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the OSCE, how they were tipping off Ukraine where the soldiers were from the Donetsk and the Lugansk Republic. So that was before 2022. That was in, 2014 to 2022. So this peace organization for the security and cooperation in Europe was getting a huge amount of people killed. They were telling Kiev where to bomb, and they were bombing there and killing all these people, and they were killing a lot of civilians, as 14,000. Of course, don't talk about that. We're not supposed to talk about that in the West. So, but anyway, they were secretly telling where all the troops were at, and yes, and remember, Russia withdrew from the OSCE in 2022, and they were saying that how everybody was shocked. Hey, what the heck? Why would you withdraw from a peace organization? The peaceful guys. Well, I mean, they're like the NED, the National Endowment of Democracy. Oh, democracy, And it reminds me, when I was in a foreign country, living in a foreign, I'm in one right now. The country I lived in before this, it used to be, if you ever read this book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman, I think the guy lives in Florida, but it was big for a while, and of course, maybe the establishment made sure it went away, just like a lot of other books that are very important and very telling. But anyway, this guy, he was in the Peace Corps, and he was telling how they used the Peace Corps to get in and to control governments, and if he said that he went, I think it was in Chile or whatever, and he was trying to convince them to do what the U.S. tells them to do and be a puppet of the United States, and he didn't agree, so the U.S. went in with the jackals and assassinated him. So that's what they do. They, that's how it's done. But a lot of people, they were, like even the Peace Corps themselves, they were ticked off about that and said, stop using the Peace Corps as your arm of, the CIA and all this, of your arm of overthrowing governments and regime changes. Of course, the U.S. uses everything for regime changes and overthrowing governments. Everything. You can't even name a thing that they don't use it for. They infiltrate everything to overthrow governments. I don't know if Trump's going to be different, hopefully, but when I was there, they were using religious organizations. And like I said, I might have mentioned in another video, they even were talking to me, but they had amateurs. It's a very small country, and they didn't send the best there because it was a very tiny country. And it was right after that war kicked off in 2008 with South Ossetia, and my wife is from this area of Europe, and they were first talking to me, and then she really wanted to talk to my wife. And my wife and I both said immediately, that's a CIA agent. That's you can tell that they're not as adept at it. And it's strange because this woman, somehow she had enough money, even in the past, to be paying for education for people from that country, to send them through college or pay for their first year or something like that. And she wondered, well, how did she get this money? And but she was from a religious organization. I won't say the church, but that's how they do it a lot of times now. They go in through the churches, oh, we're sweet and innocent. It's just like Zelensky. Oh, we're so humble, we're so humble, we're so humble. Now give me the money, Yes. Okay. UK. Okay. I think I mentioned they already, it was the dream team, but they call it the Coalition of the Willing. And Scholz said he's not going to send troops unless the United States sends troops. And I don't know. But Merz, Scholz is on his way out. I don't know how much longer he has. Merz, he really wanted to get involved. He wanted to send the most powerful weapons Germany has to offer to Ukraine. Makes you wonder, how does this guy win, in the election? And but Trudeau said, and he's on his way out too, by the way. And he also wants to, but he's, fishing around. You know how Trudeau is, fishing around here, fishing a little bit there. He, I don't know. You don't know what Trudeau's going to do. He doesn't even know what Trudeau's going to do. So, yeah, but like I said, the Baltics are going to be there. Some stuff I already talked about. But, Scholz, he was reiterating that no to sending troops, but yes to lots of money and lots of weapons. So, but like I said, I think he's on his way out. I mean, he is on his way out. I don't think he's going to be in the coalition whenever it comes. Maybe so. You never know. I don't know if it's going to happen between the AFD and the CDU-CSU, if they're going to be able to form a coalition. So maybe it will be the SPD and the CDU. So he might actually have a say. Yes, and I think the only thing that can stop it is if these people from these countries, Canada even, or Germany, if they start a big mass rebellion, because these leaders, they want a war. And if you wonder, well, why did the war start? What these people are trying to do is to have a casus belli of why the war started in the first place, and they want to go to step 2, even though, the step 1 was, they were amassing troops on the border going to attack Donetsk and Lugansk and all that. Russia had to come in because they were going to cause a mass slaughter of those people. They were already killing them all. And and that's why it all started. And then NATO was going to be rolling in. And now they're having NATO country. Now they have a coalition of the willing to send NATO in. So what do you think? What do you think, Russia? I mean, it would be, if they let this happen, it would be like the whole war was pointless, because all of a sudden they're back to the same thing anyway. But by the way, Russia's a little bit more powerful now, so I don't think that's going to happen. And and these countries, a lot of them, like Canada, economically they're getting worse and worse. That's probably the only thing that would be holding Trudeau. But like I said, who knows what's going to happen with who's going to take over for Trudeau. But I don't know. Starmer doesn't seem that confident, really, when you hear him talking. He said, we have to get the U.S. involved. He wants the U.S. involved. So I guess they're still hoping to try to convince the Trump administration. A lot of time you think that they want to get rid of Trump. They're trying to think of a way to get rid of Trump so they can get somebody in there and then go to war against Russia. Because the whole objective is to get Russia. It really makes you wonder. That's been the objective for many, many years. Maybe you can even go back centuries. Let's get Russia. We got to get Russia. Like, what the friggin'? I mean, why don't you guys mind your own business? By the way, I'll get to a tweet from Donald Trump. But one person that Zelensky met was King Charles. And as you know, the bankers of King Charles is the Rothschilds. And the Rothschilds have huge involvement in Israel. So you start to see the links here. I can't connect the dots, but the dots are all there. Maybe there's somebody else that's going to be better out there that can connect the dots, maybe with a little bit of evidence. You probably need some evidence, if you want to make those connections, but it's there. And Trump put out this incredible tweet. Can't talk. It's not that cold, but here, I'll mention the tweet. This is really good. We should spend less time worrying about Putin and more time worrying about migrant gang rapes, drug lords, murderers, and people from mental institutions entering our country so that we don't end up like Europe. And I want to chime in on that. You know, if you hear from people, like say in the UK or Germany, and it's out there, but it's like against the law, I know, in Germany, even when I was there. It's against the law to report all of these rapes from migrants that are raping German women, children. And it was, one of them started out, there was some migrant, he raped a boy in Zwickau. You know, I had property near Zwickau, and in a swimming pool area. And yeah, he raped this boy, and his excuse, and he got off scot-free by saying, oh, I couldn't understand him. I didn't understand that he was telling me he did not want to be raped. You know? So the courts let him off. Think about that. And then they even had groups. And a matter of fact, honest to God, I even met one of these guys. He had an office, and I talked to him. And these groups were sort of like a vigilante group. And businesses could call these people when, you know, and they kind of came over secretly when they had migrants stealing stuff from the shops, like Muslim migrants stealing alcohol beverages from the shops. That was one thing. And then some of these guys said they had the right to do that. And if you want to be honest, the Ukrainians are even worse. We are Ukrainians, and you have to take care of us. You are the underlings, and we are Ukrainians. So you have to provide all of this stuff, free rent, free apartments, you know, all that. And even when I was there before that, there was a lot of things, they called them Außensiedlers. They were people that are from the former area, maybe between the Oder and the Neisser, the things that went to Poland, but they were ethnically bloodline Germans, but they didn't speak German, so they were sending them there to Euroschule to learn German and all. But a lot of them believed, and it's even true with a lot of migrants that went to France, because I've even talked to them, like from Romania and all that, and they believed, because they were told, and it's through Soros and through US aid, obviously through all of this mass fake information, that when they flood into Europe, that they're going to get a free apartment, lots of money every month, and a car, and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of them, they would come and say, well, where's my car? This is the honest to God truth, the honest to God truth. And like I say, these governments, at least in Germany and the UK, I know that for a fact, because I've talked to a lot of people from the UK. Whenever these people are robbing and they get little girls and they groom them for sex, and a lot of times they get them addicted to drugs. So in order to get the drugs, they have to go out and have sex with men, and a lot of times they gang rape them and things like that. And we're talking not just hundreds, we're talking in the thousands. Maybe I shouldn't even talk about this. A lot of people, they don't want to hear this really, really bad news and the stuff that's really true. And I'll get to, I think I wrote down here also what Kash Patel said. So let's keep going here. But I'm even thinking, you know, that a lot of these politicians, maybe they're getting some sort of payoffs, and that's normally the case. Why would you cover this up? Why wouldn't you want to get these people out, you know? And it's really fantastic that Donald Trump would actually come up with a tweet saying this sort of stuff. And there's going to be a lot of people in the UK that are going to, I'll tell you what, Donald Trump shouldn't do a world tour, because there's going to be people cheering in the streets all over the place about Donald. But you know, the lefties or whatever, or the establishment, the deep state, whatever, they are also working overtime, and a lot of times they pay people, and they control huge swaths of the media, and they're trying to convince everybody, you know, to hate Donald Trump. Look at what he's doing. Elon Musk wasn't elected, you know. Just like all these other people, they're not elected either. Even all of them during the Biden time. But oh no, it was okay with them then. Oh boy. Kash Patel, let's see what he said. He said, Akash Patel, he's also amazing. He said Ukraine is a place of money laundering and corruption. And he's ordered an investigation as to where the hundreds of billions of dollars that they sent to Ukraine went. So that's going to be something. And but don't worry, it didn't go to Ukraine. I mean to Zelensky, because he said he's an honest man. He told us, I think it was a week ago, he said, I'm honest. I'm an honest man. And he goes like this all the time. He puts his hand on his heart. You watch Zelensky, that's part of his thing, either with his nose or whatever. And another one is putting his hand on his heart. Watch his gestures. Oh, okay. And now he says, that's another thing. Now he says he's ready to sign the mineral deals. Maybe Starmer, Keir Starmer. He said, we need the USA on board for this war against Russia that we plan on using and calling it peacekeepers. But it's, and so anyway, it's, he said he's ready to sign the minerals deal. This is a third time. How many times? So what's he going to do this time? And Zelensky, obviously, and J.D. Vance called him out on this, and it was his plan. Like I said, Zelensky had rehearsed a large part of this, and it was his plan. He knew the media would be there. He was trying to set up like litigation, as Vance said, to use the press to go against Trump and Vance, and to act like, oh, I'm such an honest guy, I'm so good, and I'm fighting for the freedom of America, and blah blah, whatever the heck he wanted to say. And Trump had his number, and so did Vance. So they were talking every time Zelensky came up with his propaganda crap, with his lies and all that sort of stuff. They stopped him, and Trump was saying, "You're gambling with World War III." I mean, what a stupid thing to do. What a stupid thing to do, to go to war against Russia on a far different continent. I mean, Trump isn't that stupid. It's very much like if Russia were to go to war against the United States on the American continent. It's not going to happen. It can't happen. They would lose. They would lose, just like the United States. And I guess the Pentagon, many people have come up with these scenarios with AI and everything about potential war between Russia and the United States. And guess what? The United States loses every single time. No matter how they make it up, the United States loses the war. So probably even if it was in the United States. So I think the United States, a lot of them people are kind of realizing, we really don't want this war. And of course, if there's nuclear weapons used, everybody loses. So okay. Third time. Oh yeah, Lavrov. I was mentioning, this is towards the end here. Now I'm almost ready. I'm almost done here. He was mentioning 360-degree Baerbock, and he said that, I didn't write every word he said, I just kind of paraphrased a little bit here. He said that Zelensky turned pure Nazi. And I think maybe what he was referring to, I was thinking maybe he said after 6 months. I think there was a little time he said that maybe Zelensky wasn't, but now he's turned, I think after 6 months of being there, he turned pure Nazi. And of course, a lot of people say that maybe he's pressured, that the Nazis made him to be a pure Nazi. I have no idea, because it looked like he wasn't a Nazi when he won the election, and he won the election on not being a Nazi, standing against everything. And then he got into office, and at some point in time, everything that he stood for, he was against it. He turned 100, like Lavrov said, 180 degrees. For Baerbock, it's 360 degrees. So he turned exactly the opposite of what he actually won on. And it's very similar, like I was saying now. Well, he said also that he completely turned against Judaism. And now he's an anti-Jew, even though he's a Jew himself. Some people say Hitler was a Jew. I don't know. But anyway, and speaking of being anti-Jewish or whatever, Netanyahu, a lot of people say, he's not Jewish, or if he is, he's of some weird sect of Judaism that goes, that most Jews don't like at all in the first place. But Netanyahu says now he's getting the bombs that he wants to continue the war. He says he wants to continue this and finish the job. So we can expect something like that again. But he didn't say finish the job necessarily on Hamas. He said finish the job on Iran's terror axis. So Bibi Netanyahu, he's just as fanatic against Iran as Zelensky is against Russia. You know, and like I say in a lot of my videos, this is actually the same ideology, just a few very different players, but it's the same ideology. It's an ideology of hatred, and it's not fascism. So don't even. Fascism is something different. Fascism is economic, but Nazism. These people are Nazis. I don't care if you portend to have a Jewish religion or not. You're still a friggin' Nazi. You know, these are Nazis. Superiority, the master race, the exceptional people, God's chosen people, all this kind of crap, you know. They can't seem to get along with each other, but it looks like Donald Trump, we might even see Donald Trump join the multipolar world. That's one thing that I was wanting to talk about in other videos, but I don't know if he can go out and proclaim that, or if he just has to kind of act that way. Or is he going to proclaim that he's joining this or not? I don't know, because that seems to be the only way now. But we'll see. Anyway, that's about all I have to say for now. You know, it's an early video. I got classes soon, but I still have to study, and I had to get this out because I switched now. I have classes later. So thank you all for joining me. You know, go ahead and leave comments or put a thumbs up. A thumbs up, that's very important. So thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.